Welcome back to the Rhonda Swan Show. This week, I have had some of the most magnificent interviews from our authors from the Women Gone Wild Intuition Edition. In fact, I've had women talking about quantum physics, how to change your life just by tapping into your intuition. And tonight's interview is going to be nothing but amazing because I have Penney Peirce. She's an international clairvoyant, empath, spiritual leader, author, popular lecturer, and trainer. Penney has worked with Kaiser Institute and the Center for Applied Intuition. She is a member of the Authors Guild. She also advises and coaches businesses and government leaders, psychologists, scientists, celebrities, and those on a spiritual path about the hidden dynamics of what makes for true success. Penney is one of our early pioneers specializing in intuition development movement, transformation, inner energy dynamics, expanded perception, and dream work. Oh my goodness, I can't even wait to talk to her. Her work assists people and her organization in uncovering purpose and action plan, understanding and easing transitions, alleviating burnout, and finding accurate answers to pressing questions. Penny, I cannot wait to have you out here. How are you?
I am really good, really, really good. And it's good to see you and your cat.
I know. Indy is my magic cat, and she is so deep in sleep. She's been sitting here all day in our interviews, you know, and being in Bali, like this energy, right? These animals and all this beautiful natural energy we have, it just brings us into our space, which I think is kind of perfect for today because she's never here.
Interesting.
And,
yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
Well, they love energy.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So how are you, my dear? Good to see you.
I'm really good. I'm in Florida. So yesterday we had a 30-degree temperature drop. So it went from like 85 to 52. And I woke up, you know, it's like woo, I can move around and it's not so humid. It's great.
That's funny because my family lives in Florida. My husband's family lives there. And you go to Florida, it's either nice and chilly or you are dying of heat. And it's like such drastic, change. So it's nice to see the change in weather. I know Florida went through a lot of different things happening this year. So we're sending lots of love to that state for sure,
Right.
Yeah, but Penny, let's just have a chat because I love what you are. I love what you do. And so honored and grateful that you have offered your brilliance into this Women Gone Wild Intuition book that we're launching next year. And I just want to tap into you. So if we could talk a bit about the difference between being intuitive and being a psychic, that could kind of help us start off.
It's a good basic question. I think that everyone is intuitive, right? And we use it from babyhood, to sense things. And it's a human skill. And it can be so refined so that you can start to know more and more subtle kinds of information. And, that has to do with timing and decisions and choices and the nuances of how something works and all that. But it's life skills, really. To me, it's very practical. It's not woo-woo. But now psychic is a kind of a subset, I think, of intuition. And often I find that psychics are very oriented toward finding answers for people about the future or the past, where I feel intuition is very much based in the present moment.
Yeah.
And so I think psychism sometimes is a little bit superstitious. It can be a little misleading. It can program people in a way that I don't like.
Yeah.
And yet it's part of intuition. Once you open up, then you can know all kinds of things, but what's wisdom? That's the difference, whether it's just titillating or are you using it for greed or ego, or is it true wisdom? So that's to me the difference.
Yeah, I love that because you're right. There's so many, smoke and mirrors, right? I mean, we have to be real about this. There are smoke and mirrors, and when I hear the word psychic, and then I hear the word intuition, it does have a different connotation, a different meaning to itself. And I think about what we're doing here with this book, especially when we're talking about intuition, it's about self. It's about anchoring in to ourself and really feeling within, like, where's that guided direction as to, the answers that we're looking for. So I don't certainly look down upon the word psychic because I think they have very similar pathways. I think it's just we've given it an unfortunate negative connotation to the term, So let's talk about intuition. I know that you're kind of called the queen of intuition. Like, let's just be real. You've written so many books. I mean, you've authored over 10 books. So many people struggle to even just write one. However, what can you share with our authors or with other authors about your creation process and how intuition plays into that? The outcome of these books that you've authored.
Yeah, I think any creative process is almost equivalent to the intuitive process. You are letting yourself become centered and quiet, because if you have a little voice in your head all the time, that's your left brain. And that's the logical, needing proof, needing, things to be usually sourced from the past. And when you get quiet, you stop that little voice and you go into the right brain, which is the doorway into kind of the unified field or the collective consciousness or the imaginal realm. And when you can be quiet and open up into that space, at that point, you can access amazing stuff, all kinds of, creative ideas or insights about what something really means. So that's my process, is that I really have learned over the years to shift into that state where I can access. And then I've really worked a lot on translating those felt states, and they're very large, complex states, but they're all at once. So I let them kind of impress my body, like make a dent in it, kind of, or an impression. And then I let that go into my left brain so I can put words on it. But I try to make it as accurate as I can in terms of what the energy is really doing, if that makes sense. When I'm trying to explain a higher concept of how something works.
No, it really does, because I as you're saying that, I'm like, wow. So when I need to do my creative process, right, I usually go away. I go away from all of the noise, all the things that are around me, because I'm in my office, my studio. I got all these things going on, and I'll just sit. And what you said kind of gave me some permission to what I do, because I do the same. I just allow, and all of a sudden it's like comes into this idea, and then it has to go in to the left brain in order for me, or the right brain, in order for me to start processing and logically putting it into structure. And I don't know that many think that way. I mean,
or they're not conscious of
maybe they're not
what
conscious.
They're doing.
Yeah.
And even once you start bringing a big idea into form and grounding it, you have a thought, I'll do it this way, and this will be the first task. But then in between the first task and the second task, you kind of go back out there again and let yourself check to see what does want to happen next, and then come back. It's a constant sort of rocking. I call that the round trip. You go out and you come back, and you're sourcing, and then you're translating, and then you're letting your body have fun doing things here in the physical world, and then it all should be fun.
Yeah. I think that that creative process for so many people is what may keep them from actually doing more or creating more, because most may not understand how to actually process, like getting a book done, for instance. Like, I'll be honest, my first book took me 8 years, because I had no process. No one told me about how to do it. So I was like writing every word, remembering every story, and I just couldn't get it done. And it stopped me. And now, of course, we've produced like 4 or 5 books, boom, 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 because I understood the process. Can you share like more about how, like, for instance, if someone has never authored a book, right? how do they, where would they even start?
I think the first thing is really to get a good sense of the concept and the message that you're wanting to put across. And then do work on a kind of outline, that what's a progression of the way you want to talk about it and the things you want people to understand. And I used to just do a big piece of paper with a ball diagram, like satellite, here's, and I draw it out more in a right-brained artistic way. Then I'd make an actual outline. And then I think you have to chunk it, right? A lot of creative projects, you have to do that. You can't do it all at once. And if you look at it all at once, it's too overwhelming. So write titles first, write, subtitles, get your chapter kind of a sense of what you want to say, do some research if you need it, and play with it. I go back over every chapter like 7, 8, 10 times before I finish. And then I go back over the whole thing once it's written and make sure that it all fits cohesively together and do the kind of editing on it.
Yeah.
But it starts with an internal non-physical outline in your sense of how do you want this thing to feel to people, and I always ask for help too from the non-physical realm. I call it the writers in the sky. I said, come on, everybody, let's have some fun today and let's write and, help me think of ideas and all kinds of surprising connections come through that way.
Yeah, I really love that because it's like, okay, let's get it structured, because I think that's what we, especially as women, right? We're either very inner masculine or very inner feminine, and we're really not sure, is it structure, is it flow, right? And so many get lost in it. But to allow yourself to say, okay, here's the structure, and now allow the flow, that's the permission that I really love about that intuitive and that creative process, because I'm very in my feminine, but I know how to work in my masculine. Yet I know, okay, let's give that a break right now. And let's structure it and now allow myself to really create. And that then gives me permission to allow that flow to happen. Right.
And I think it's important to remember that the structure comes from the intuitive. Before the structure can occur, you have to have the feeling of the whole thing, of like how it wants to, you have to almost like merge into the inner blueprint of that form to see how does it want to come alive? What does it want to say? And then you can make the structure that almost like drops out of that inner blueprint, because it's always a rocking back and forth, non-physical, physical, non-physical, physical, back and forth with everything we do.
It's the dance. I had a guy last night I met, and he's like, look, when we look at you, we see all these things are great happening, all this good stuff. How does it happen? I was like, well, I just believe it and I manifest it, but I plan it. I ask for it. And he's like, so you're saying this is like a constant, a daily thing, your manifestation, your intuition. I was like, yeah, like it's something.
Of course, it is a daily thing. It's life,
But for him, he was like blown away, Penny, and like, okay, so do you ever just sit and just really tap in and drop in to what you want to feel and what you want to hear? And he's like, no, I just start planning. I'm like, right. And when you're in the space that you get, you don't realize how often most don't get that.
I've worked with many corporate people who don't get that at all, right? And because they gloss over that part of the process and don't understand how to notice it. And that's a big thing with intuition, is noticing it. And that when you do notice that it's happening, then it strengthens it and you can do it more often. And then you notice how often it is happening on its own, you know, and you can work with it more consciously, I think, at that point, and call on it when you need it.
Well, all right. So I know that you work with a lot of celebrities, certainly government leaders, business owners. Would you say there's patterns that you've seen as blocks that each of them had, or were there opportunities for growth that are different, right? Like, what do you see in that type of level that have those type of blocks that might, emerge?
So many different ones. I mean, some with a number of the celebrities I've worked with, for instance, there's just this huge energy that needs to get out, and a lot of frustration about it, or shame about it, or different things that have to be overcome so that the full creativity can go forth. And I've seen, a lot of them that are take drugs or whatever because they have to try to regulate their own energy.
Wow.
That's their way of thinking until they learn more about themselves.
Mm.
But a lot of people are just shy, and can't feel themselves very well, and they need a sense of presence so that they start to understand how talented or wise or loving they actually are. And then to enjoy those things about themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I say very often that I think self-entertainment is a very high state, that if you're all complaining and negative, like you're just dragging your whole reality down. But if you entertain yourself in life, and especially by noticing things, one part of intuition that's so important, I think, is beauty. It's the idea of being, you don't have to be productive all the time. You need to commune with the environment around you because it is you. When you really are in an inner state and you start to expand out, you include the tree and the birds and the bugs and the water and everything. And the same energy is running through the whole thing. And then you realize that's the energy of the self. And you are connected to everything. It's so important to have those communion experiences, conscious communion, so that it's like it greases the wheels of the creative process and just of the mutual support process that I think we're supposed to be doing with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that the world has been shifting so much, we've learned so much about ourselves and each other. And I think that, well, at least what I've been feeling, like during this time of COVID, certainly, it was like so many either took the time to ground or they were so in their head and out of their body that now that things are shifting into the new norm and there's activity, it's either chickens with their heads cut off or those that are like literally sitting so completely grounded because they got it, And it's like, how do we regain that balance to bring people forward? And I think that's really part of our mission that we're working on right now. It's like, how do we ground them in?
Yeah.
COVID
was really important, I think, as part of a global process to help people pause and stop the cell phone addiction and, like everything that they're just keyed up and time speeding by when you're like that. So when I got COVID recently, it's like time slowed down so much and it's expanded out and it was so spacious. And I was like amazed at the whole difference in my, aura or energy or something. Yeah. And it was quite a gift, interestingly, not something to be so scared of. But anyway, I think that this period has been for a lot of people to interrupt their previous habits, take a breath and see what's next. And a lot of people I have been talking to all feel like they've been waiting and that something was coming that was a big expansion of their bubble. Like I think of my life as a sphere and I'm at the center of it and it expands and contracts. If I focus on writing, it comes down, and I'm right here. But if I open up and meditate or whatever, then I have a huge ball and everything's inside it with me at different frequencies. So I had this sense that my ball was going to jump up. What if it expanded 50%? What if you were 50% more of yourself and had more luck or more resources or more money or more, whatever you needed? What if that became true? So I have been sensing that, but couldn't see the form. just the feeling. And I think that's often what happens in a creative process, right? Yeah. What we were talking about before. You sense the feeling or the state of being of something. And then if you can stay in that feeling state, your body starts to recognize it. And then once your body recognizes it, it thinks it's real.
It's normal.
And then the reality starts patterning itself around you according to that state.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like not so hard to materialize things.
It's such a big lesson too, if you think about it. Like, you know, Wayne Dyer always said, thoughts become things. You know, what you think about is what becomes your reality. And if you really I remember hearing that going, well, what do I have to lose? Like, what do I really have to lose? You know, because this is like, you know, back in the day when I was starting to get into personal development, I'm like, well, if my thoughts are things, and I do think about these things, what if that happens? But what if I just think about the good stuff? And then what if that happens too? And when I became so conscious and mindful of just what I was allowing into my consciousness or my mindset, you really protect your mind. You protect your brain, what you're thinking. You know, the monkey mind is like, stay down, because what we think about does become our reality. And you know, it's proven. It's a law. It's a scientific law.
It is. It is. That's why I talk a lot about your home frequency.
Yes.
And that is the state really of the soul in the body. That if the real you here, which, you know, I am the soul. I don't have a soul. It's not out there somewhere. You know, I'm it now, you know, and I'm making a body, a life, and so forth. But only part of me can get through because of my old fears. It's like a sieve over top of you, you know, and you can only get through the holes, you know. So we're trying to clear the fear away so that more of who I am as a soul can come through my personality and my life. I think that's the whole purpose of the spiritual path.
Yeah.
You know,
the essence.
And, you know, so I don't know. It's just, you know, that transparency is so important. And, you know, intuition is the doorway into all that stuff. I think it's not only great for knowing things and creating things, but it is the way that you understand that you are the soul, that the spiritual realm, all that stuff out there that's in the higher frequencies is right here, actually inside matter. We're living in the spiritual realm now, but, you know, we can be very high frequency beings in a kind of a lower frequency reality. And we can start to change the way matter functions around us by maintaining stability of our home frequency. And of course, we're going to get around a lot of other people who are depressed or angry and violent or whatever, and we'll hear about it because it's in the field.
Yeah. But
what you look at and pay attention to is the choice you're making about the vibration you're choosing, you know? And that's what you were saying, is that you don't have to protect yourself so much as be very conscious about what you're choosing. Because everything exists. I mean, all the negativity and awful things are in the field. But if you don't look at them and pay attention to them, they don't get activated. It's attention is the power. What you put attention on is what comes into form. And what you take attention out of, then that dissolves back into the energy realm. So boredom is sometimes a very good state because it helps you take attention out of old things that you don't need anymore. You know?
That's a big lesson.
So yeah, it's huge. And it's not difficult to learn, but then you have to watch yourself and say, oh, look at what I just got obsessed with. You know, oh God. And that took me down the rabbit hole, you know?
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, I did it. Okay. Now I'm going back to center.
Aware. That's the difference, right? If we're aware, then we're like, okay, then I can change it. I think that's the difference in those that are unconscious right now that are still not quite aware. And they're like, why? And all of a sudden they're in this deep hole.
Right. You beat yourself up. You criticize yourself. You have that internal critic. And, you know, that's just your left brain trying to keep you from changing.
Yeah, right.
Out of what it knows, you know. That's all I think about it now. Is left brain is the one who's got this pattern memorized, and it doesn't like change.
Yeah.
And often, we think we are our left brain, and then that's when we become egotistical or narcissistic.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, we're such simple beings, yet we make things so complicated because we just don't we want to figure it out and make all these things right. And I think that's the beauty of why I'm so passionate, certainly about the work that we're all doing together and how we're helping other women see through our stories and through, what we've gone through to really tap in and go, oh, okay, I get that. I can change, or I can see that in me, right? And that's really exciting for me about the women that are coming together. Before I have you go, because I want to obviously keep talking to you all night long. It's your day, it's my night. What would you say would be probably one of the best lessons that you've ever gotten that have really helped, pave your path?
I think that things that happen that we would categorize as negative are not negative at all. I've really come to see whether something's contracted or expansive, it's still evolutionary.
Yeah. And
if you can just be with the any experience, just if it comes up in your reality, it must be there for a reason. Like I let this come into my reality. And then there's something incomplete in me or something I need to understand a little bit better. So stay with it and work with it, but don't label it and make it, bad.
Don't make it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And then things just, you get it's that, okay, fine. And then it's not a big deal and it kind of dissolves and you don't get it again. If you really understand it, it doesn't come back. If you don't quite understand it, it'll come back in a slightly different form. And so trust is the big word. You got to trust the flow, of how things occur and the sequencing of those things.
And give it time, give it the space. Because we're so used to figuring out why. It's like, no, just give it the space and just give it that time.
The irony on that, is that when you do get quiet and kind of slow down and give it space, things happen faster.
Right.
There's not as much wasted, kind of static.
Yep.
And then you get this elegance of the way things occur, just what you need, what you need, then the next thing, And it's just like magic.
Okay, so that was probably the best thing I've heard all day. And I've done 6 shows today. Take some space, calm down, and it happens even faster. And that's the elegance of watching it flow. And that really is such a lesson. We think the faster we go or more I'm thinking, the more I'm doing, it's going to happen more. It's like, actually, no, just take the space, take some time and allow it to eloquently flow through.
Yes.
I am so honored and humbled to, be next to you and to walk with you and to have you part of this next series in this Women Gone Wild book. I really, truly appreciate you and all that you are and what you stand for. And I can't wait to see you sooner than later. Not in Bali, across the world.
It is a really going to be a very wonderful adventure with all these people coming together equally to create a kind of a group mind. And I think women are, not that they're more intuitive than men, but they're good teachers of intuition because they live in it so much more in a conscious way. Men can be conscious about it very easily, but I think women can't get out of it almost. It's totally true. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Have an amazing rest of your day in Florida as it's chilling out and while we're heating up here on Bali. And I'll see you so soon.
And your cat is just in bliss.
She's so cute. Oh, she's the sweetest. She's a magic cat. Look at her. She's like, I love it. Oh, just a piece. Oh, that's the greatest. All right, there you go. Well, everyone, I hope you
right.
enjoyed tonight's show. Talking
Thank
about
you, Rhonda.
magic, intuition. Thank you so much, Penny. And guys, please make sure you leave a comment and follow Penny and find all of the amazing things that she's doing. She is the queen of intuition. So make sure that you're following, and we'll have everything about Penny down below. And I just want to leave you with this. Be unstoppable and stay wild. We'll see you on the next show. Bye, everyone.